Difference between a serif and a sans-serif font. So a serif font is generally all of those extensions you see around them. We have a lot, we have a lot of them. So but a sans-serif does not have that kind of thing. So I also talk about hierarchy, because in design we are not just basically just writing a lot of things. We are just trying to make sure we are telling a story. It's an opportunity for you to tell a story, and the way you tell the story, for example, now let's say you want to write a letter to someone, it follows a particular hierarchy. You don't just start by saying, okay, yes, I need you to send me 250,000 naira because I want to use that to do this, I want to start my project. No, the way you do it, you start by with the introduction, you go to this, you go to that, till you go to the main matter. I remember then while we were still in primary school, there's this way they always tell us, I'm very happy to write this letter to you. How are you doing as a family? Then you go to the main purpose of my letter is to do this, that. I want to still believe we still remember that. So that kind of way it's structured. So it's the same with typography too. There are times that you use a different kind of typography for your headings, use a different typography for your sub headings, for your body, for your caption, depending on whatever elements you have. Elements, whatever text you have on it. Sorry, who needs to mute his mic? Okay. So if you have all of those on its own, you are aligned them hierarchically. That itself, you are communicating something. That's typography. That's part of the things you do in typography. You must try to channel it in a way that it is easy for somebody to read. So for instance, if you look at a particular design, what are the things you see first? Those are the things that captures your attention. Those are the things that it's talking about the particular flyer itself. So possibly if you see a particular flyer and they're talking about maybe an application, you will normally see that the things you see in bold letters that sounds like the headings, or basically what you see first is maybe enroll now or sign up now or something that has to do with the call to action. So it's a way by which you're telling the story, and you start with the size you use for your headlines differs from the size you use for your sub headings, for your body, and all of those stuff. So also at the same time in typography, there's alignment and spacing. I'm talking about alignment and spacing. There are a lot of ways you try to align the characters or the spacings. So the first is kerning. Kerning is just the space between the baseline of the first line, second line. That's like the kerning. You can most times refer to that as maybe like line height, kind of. That's like the kerning. It tells you, you see that, okay, if you check this particular slide down, you see that there's that kind of light blue kind of gap between the first line and the second line. That's kerning. We can move to, I think I'm missing that. That's like, let me just take this out of this. Right? So that's like line height actually. So kerning is just the space between all of those texts in between. So if you can see this kerning, the letter spelled kerning, the space between the space between characters, that's kerning. And the space between the first line and second line, which I call the line height, is leading. So sorry for that. Then at the same time we have tracking. Tracking is just the space, the even space you have between all of the characters. You just spread it out. That's like tracking. So let's move to colors, which is the second aspect of it. Colors is another key component in graphic design that helps you to bring out something really good. So color enhances visual appeal, setting the mood. It sets the mood. It inflects the perception. The perception. It helps you to understand. The understanding of color helps designers create harmony, convey emotions, and improve user experience. Sorry, I'll be using the word user experience just because I'm also I'm a user experience designer. So you are trying to evoke a particular emotion. You are trying to make people get this thing in a particular way. Those are things you use with colors. Color helps you to really communicate that. It's a means of communication. Just like you're trying to write something with typography, Also, color helps your typography also. That's why you see that we're talking about it together because they work hand in hand. So, under colors, we have different models. You have the RGB. RGB stands for red, green, and blue. We have the X, that's hexadecimal. We have HSB, hue, saturation, brightness. We have CMYK. You can look at that on the web. You can see all of those names there. They are acronyms. They are used. They are different models. So most of the times, for it depends on the particular software you're using or app. There are some that runs with RGB where you need to place a particular value for your red, green, and bright your blue. There are some that deals with Excel codes. It starts with hash, hashtag FFFFF, that's white, hashtag 00000, that's black. There are some that deal with HSB, that's hue, saturation, then brightness. There's CMYK. I think CMYK is mostly used for all of those that are into productions where they try to mix all of those colors. At times they try to do a kind of subtraction so that they want to have just one color across the board for that particular design. So color harmony, there's complementary, analogous, monochromatic, color schemes which ensure balance. All of those stuff are just to ensure balance. If you look at a particular theme I'm using for this slide, you see that yes, there's this particular green, at the same time there's this particular orange I'm using. Those are just colors I just pick just to help them complement each other. So, and it helps to really bring that, when you see it, you know that yes, this is looking good, not just something you see looking awkward. And color is one of the things you need to be very, very important with graphic design. So let's talk about color wheel. Color wheel. Yes, we have like three, let's say, levels to color. We have primary colors, secondary colors, tertiary colors. We know our primary colors, right? That's the yellow, blue, and red. Those are primary colors. And the mixture of primary colors gives us secondary colors. And the mixture of two or more secondary colors gives you tertiary colors. And that's one of the things that is very common to people. We know that at least we should have heard of this from your elementary or tertiary institutions. Talking about colors for anybody that's gone into arts or something of sort. So let's talk about color psychology. So one of the things I want you to still know is that we don't use color anyhow in graphics. You don't just decide that okay, I want to do a flyer. The color I use is green, yellow. That's what I'm going to use. No, it's not all about it's not just all about you doing things anyhow. For all of the brands you see out there, they didn't just decide to use this color. Coca-Cola didn't just wake up and say, okay, we're using red. Which other brands? Chelsea, for instance, didn't just decide to use blue. There are different, different rationales behind all of those colors you see. So I'll run through some. Red stands for excitement, strength, love, energy. Yes, for Valentine, you see the red all around. It shows love. Orange, creativity. I want to still believe we are still together, or I'm talking to myself. I'm still together, please. I'm still together.
Yes, sir, we are together, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. So, orange, creativity. Yellow, joy, optimism, warmth, cheer. Green, nature, healing, freshness, quality. Trust. It's for blue. And all of those colors that we keep having, pink, compassion, sincerity, all of this. Let me just move to the practical aspects where we see them in action. So let's take, for example, this particular slide now. See Coca-Cola, CNN, Adobe, Toyota, Red Bull, all of those brands use color red because it falls into all of these categories. You get excitement, strength, Red Bull now strength, Coca-Cola can be energy, excitement, all of those stuff happens to be the reasons they are using those colors. Timberland, Foods, Fanta, Amazon, you can name all of those brands. You can check all of those brands. Nike is black because black is something sophisticated, something that is formal. We have all of those, PayPal, Samsung, Intel, Sony, Apple, HP, Toshiba, and all the brands like that. We can keep naming them. So they are just doing all of those, not because they feel like the best, but because that's a particular meaning. So combining typography and color now, one of the things you need to know for you to effectively combine them is contrast. Now, why do I say contrast? Contrast helps you to know it gives the difference between two objects or two elements. So, for instance, now I'm still going to go into much more. I have one example on the slide later on. We're going to see that contrast helps you to see the ensure visibility. You can see it. Let me take for example now this particular www.marktech.com that you're seeing on the slide. You can read www.marktech.com because there's a bit of contrast between that green banner and the text. But if there's no a good contrast, I'm going to show that example. You will not be able to read that thing effectively. So that's why it ensures readability. And one of the key principles you're going to use is that ensure that you are using a dark text on a light background, or a light background, or a light text on a dark background, just vice versa. So another thing you need to know is mood and alignment. So you pair bold typography with vibrant colors of energy. Consistency. One of the things you need to know is you use limited color palette. At least, if you look at this particular slide now, you are just seeing maybe like three colors for all of the things, except for all of the logos that you're seeing on top of it. Basically, you should not go more than just 2 to 3. When you're having too much of colors, it's not really, most times, if you're not careful, you'll not be able to control them. Like they go white, you just keep seeing different colors. So that's why you need to maintain at least 2 to 3 colors. Just pick your primary color, your secondary color, and pick any other color that complements what you're doing. So, yes, now talking about that contrast now, let's talk about accessibility matters. Use high contrast color combinations. Now, you can see, I want to ask, let me see. Can you see the first, can you see that first, can you see me? That first box, can you see it? Let me see everybody. You can't read it very well. What about the second box? Second box, can you see it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes,
What about the third? What about the third one? Can you see it?
no, we can.
Now that's a perfect example of contrast I was trying to talk about. So in the first one, the background is light. Okay, let me just. Oh, I've jumped. Can somebody tell me the reason? Just drop in the comments the reason, or you can unmute and talk if you have any. You can just raise your hand, just talk. Why do we have the first one not going well? What's like the issue with it? Does anybody have any idea? Just 5
Yes,
seconds.
yes, sir. I think it's because of the color, sir.
Okay,
Because
what
the
can I
color
say?
tends to be yellow, so we're now applying white inside yellow. It's kind of, yeah, not letting me see very well. But to me, it's kind of very fair now. I can see it. It's kind of different to the second one, by using black and the white one.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. The following show said the colors are not contrasting. The white is blending with the yellow background. Good. Do you still have any other person to drop? 2 bright colors don't match. Thank you very much, Marcos. Thank you. Who else do we have? Do you have anyone else? The two colors in the first are both bright colors to good. Good. I think yes, you are following. You are getting something. Just because of time, let me move on. Yeah, thank you very much. I don't know who spoke. Thank you very much for that. The reason we have all of these variations is just to explain that contrast for us. A light text cannot work on a light background, and also a dark text cannot work on a dark background. Just know that for a fact. If you're using a light background, you should use a dark text. And when I mean dark text, it might not necessarily be black. There are other colors that are dark. There's a darker version of green, there's a darker version of yellow, there's a darker version of red, there's a darker version of purple. There has to be that dark version on a light background so that you can see that contrast, that difference between the background and the text. And also for the last rectangle we are seeing, the last box, it's a dark background and you're still having a dark text on it. It demands you to strain your eyes for you to see what is there. But normally you can see the middle one. Then even just looking at the screen, you can see what is there. But the first and the third, it takes you time for you to look at it and read. So one of the things I want you to keep in your mind is accessibility matters. Use high contrast color combinations. Let them patch. Let them be very visible, and that has to do with you applying the contrast rules. So moving forward, yes, also about accessibility now. Within these two designs, I picked these 2 designs. There's a design talking about Friday, the perfect, and today's Friday. So Friday, the perfect day to wrap up the week and blah blah. Let's say we have this kind of design from someone. I think yes, I acknowledge the person that did that. That's at the design came. So it was done by that person, and not my design actually. So the second one is like me trying to play around with what that person did to still talk about legible fonts. Now I want to ask, if you see the second between the first and the second one, which one do you think you'll be happy to pick and share your status? Which one? Is it the first or the second? Can you just drop it in the comment? Which one will you be happy to say,
The
okay,
first
this
one.
Friday? The first one, yes. But why are you not going for my design? Not going for the second one, please. I need people that will go for the second one. And just see the first, the first. I'm seeing the first on the comments. Is that how nobody's going for my design? Why? It is not.
The first one look professional.
The second one is looking. It is
I think
professional that
for
did the
my
second one.
sir.
So it should be professional.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Number
Yes,
two, you
sir.
can go on.
Yeah, I think for my status, like you said, I'll go for the second one because it looks like playful, like you're playing around or something.
The
But
second one. Wow.
if it's
I like
going to
this
be
class.
for if it's going to be for something serious like formal and stuff, go for the first one.
Okay, I can't really read the sentence. Thank you very much. So, okay, just because of my time, because I'm trying to wrap up. Now, you use legible fonts. The first one, obviously, is what everybody would like to post. But the second one, you will not post my design because, first of all, looking at the way the Friday is even written, that kind of font is not looking like what's scary about Friday because it looks like a scary kind of font. So, yeah, you need to demonstrate. If you look at and this particular concept I'm talking about, if you check all of the thumbnails for maybe all of these horror movies, you will definitely see all these kind of things apply to them. If you see a particular movie that is very scary and all of this stuff, they tend to use a particular font for that title that it looks also scary kind of. Now look at the text that is there. I'm using a kind of a hand kind of written text. You can't read it. So one of the things you should always ensure, apart from contrast, is ensuring that all of the fonts you're using, they are legible. It's what people can read. People can see what you're actually communicating. Because as I said, graphic design is all about communication, and you need to communicate it effectively. Part of the ways you can communicate it effectively is ensuring that you use legible fonts. Now, okay, so moving on. As a wrap up, one of the things that you can use as some of the resources for you is to check Google Fonts. Just go online, Google Fonts, Peer Fonts, Wolf Font, Font Joy. You can as well check Adobe Colors, Color Hunt for your colors. Then for contrast, you can check this particular link. And I think that should end the class for my own session. Thank you very much. I don't know if anybody have any question for me before I hand over to the moderator. Do we have any question? Checking the chats. So, since I'm not seeing any comments, it means that we don't have any question. I want to believe my assumption is right. Just leave a thumbs up if my assumption is right, so that I can just hand over to the moderator. So, thank you very much, everyone. It's nice having this session with you. So, I now hand over to the moderator. Thank you. Start yourself.
Yeah, thank you very much, Goodness. Please a round of applause for you. If you can, yeah, thank you. It was an insightful session, and I'm sure that each and every one of us that listening effectively had a thing or two to gain about typography and also different types of font and typescript and the likes. So we are still expecting and hoping that we have questions. If you have any question whatsoever for Mr. Goodness concerning today's topic, please you can ask or type it on the chat space. Uh, so if there is none, I would like to proceed to the next speaker for today, and that's the final session. So the final session will be about image editing and digital illustration basics. So we'll be looking into how to edit images as graphic designers, and also how to um, how to do some basic illustration. So our speaker for today, our facilitator is Mr. Oyinloye Adebisi Joshua. Mr. Joshua is a multidisciplinary creative designer specializing in graphic design, digital illustration, and digital strategy. He combines scientific thinking with design innovation to create impactful and data-driven visual narratives. He has contributed to the virtual campaigns at Market Consulting, especially for the digital marketing team, and also provide creative directions for platforms such as the Young Professional Summit, the Wikipedia Osun, and also Quora Design. Please, with a clapping ovation, let's invite our speaker, Mr. Oyinloye Joshua. Mr. Joshua, over to you, sir.
Good evening, everyone. I believe you can hear me. Let me just please signify if I'm audible enough.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay,
You're welcome.
Yes, sir.
thank you. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, sir, we can
Yes.
see you, sir.
Yes, sir. We can see.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're dealing with image editing and digital illustration. Yeah, just the basic foundation. I have a very limited time, and I plan on carrying us through the practical aspects. Very very important. But I'll just go through my slide and then we'll see how far we can go in the course of this training. Okay, so I'll be following this guideline. So just pay attention as we continue. Now, what do we call image editing? For instance, you see a photo and you're like, well, this picture is not looking good and there are too much, it's blurry and things like that. And then you're like, okay, how do I make this image come out well? Yes, you are trying to change or improve existing images using some software. There are different software that can do that. And then, Photoshop is one of it. It does it perfectly well. And then you take what the camera captured and make it what you actually intend, what you want it to look like. That's what image editing is. And there are two things you need to know in image editing. We have the raster, that's the pixel, normal photos, the flyers you see around, the raster images, yes. They're in pixels. Yes, when we talk of pixels, they are more or less like mosaic form, like title view. For those of you that have started using Photoshop and well, you have zoomed closely into a particular workflow you're working on, you start seeing more or less like a tile-like structure. Okay, those are the pixels. And on the norms, it looks very good from a distance. Yes, it will look very sharp from a distance, and then when you zoom close, it becomes very blue. And then for a vector, no matter how you enlarge it, it remains the same way. It's more or less like a rubber band, so it does not lose quality. That's the difference between this vector and raster images. And then yes, like I said earlier, raster images are made up of tiny colors, yes, square-like pixels, yes, square-like structure called pixels. And then the vectors, their images are made up of mathematical parts, lines, curves, shapes that defines points and defined by points and formulas. Okay, so now what are the tools we need in this particular? For editing, we have Photoshop, we have GIMP, uh, Canva. Yes, you can use this particular tools to edit images and do different things. It's very important. And for illustration, we have Illustrator, Adobe Illustrator, we have Procreate, Inkscape. Yes, so these are tools we use to illustrate. Okay, then when I get to illustration, I will explain better. And then hardwares, more or less, instead of doing it in a system, there are hardwares you can use to do this, which is drawing tablets. For those of us that are used to it, drawing tablets, you can draw physically on your tablet and create a particular vector-like image or another vector or raster image. And then stylus. So these are hardware that we use to create, edit image, create vectors and things like that. Now, image editing basics. Okay, now we have DPIs, which is dots per inches. When you are creating image, when you are editing a photo or you are designing a flyer, this DPI is very, very important. It's more or less like the resolution of your design. It determines how your design will come out when it's done, or how an image will come out when it's finally done. And then it measures how many pixels or dots are packed into 1 inch of an image. Yes, dots per inch. How many pixels or dots are packed into 1 inch of an image. The higher the DPI, the sharper and more detailed the image appears. If your DPI is huge, sometimes working with very high amount of DPI, actually, if your system is not strong enough, the system might lag because you are dealing with a very high quality. And then for just screen purpose and online space, the required DPI is 72 for the web. And then for the print, if you want to print them out for flyers and invite people, 300 is better. But there's a but to this actually, because if you do a design with this particular DPI 72 for web, some people do zoom a lot. Like me, if I see a design, I will zoom the life of that design, and I'll make sure I see everything to see the detail, or an image to see the detail because of the nature of who I am. So, and then you notice that within a short zoom space, you're seeing pixels is becoming blurry already. And then you notice that this image is not good enough, and I'll just be that the quality will not be good enough for me. So, but to work effectively on your workspace, especially in Photoshop, 72 can be a start, and you can scale it when you're done. And also now, formats, how images, probably when you're done with a flyer or you've edited a picture finish, how do you want it to come out? I believe you should be familiar with this JPEG. Yes, it's compressed format of small file size. It goes best for photos and does not support transparency. It's everything the way it is, it just come out the way it is. Yes, and JPEG is a very common format for web designs. And also for PNG more or less comes out with larger file and it supports transparency. That's what it's actually based on. PNG more or less want to convert the JPEG to PNG, and it's going to remove the background and the image is going to be transparent, standing alone. That particular image is standing alone, more or less like in a wide space, no background or confining it. And then SVG, which is a scalable vector graphic. Yes, this is based for icons, logos, and illustration. And when you export an image as SVG, it does not lose quality at all. The quality stays perfect and very nice because of the way you are bringing it in. You are exporting it vector scalable vector graphic. And then we have the layer marks and blend modes. Okay, these are just basic for editing images. Yeah, these three are the core non-destructive editing meaning you can edit without permanently changing the original image. This is very important when you're editing. The layer, the marks, the blend mode.
make sure that they are. And also we have the adjust brightness and other texture and temperature and the likes. So these are the most fundamental editing adjustments. You're going to adjust your hue, your saturation, and luminosity. They're also very important when editing images. Don't worry, I will go into Photoshop and then I'll just show you one or two things to do. And okay, now let's see the workflow. First of all, you import your image. Yes, first of all, you import your image, and then this is where everything begins, and then you assess what needs to be fixed. Yes, before making any single adjustment, take time to study the image. Take time to study the image and don't rush into editing. Rushing into editing without plan can lead to what? Over editing and inconsistent results. So you take time, study the image, look at what needs to be done, and then you can know how to proceed. The next stage, you adjust the color, the exposure. We're going to do all this, and then you can fix the fundamental by doing all this before anything else. Then retouch and clean up. After you've done all this, you retouch, you clean up, make sure you zoom in to check if there are any details that are lost that need to be there. You check all this, and then you export in the right format. Are we following? Let me just know if we are following.
Yes.
Are we? All right, thank you. Okay, so let's go on to the next. Now, digital illustration. When we talk of digital illustration, we are, creating original artwork from scratch. Yes, from scratch. You are creating an artwork. Let me take you to the first, my first slide. See this artwork over here? It's what a digital illustration. It was created from scratch. Yes, like you draw them. First of all, you start with sketching. We'll get to the workflow of digital illustration. I will explain that better there. You majorly it's Illustrator that is majorly used for this, and then you're going to just draw a sketch on a paper and you import it into your workspace in Illustrator, and then you trace and then bring out this nice image. And then digital illustration is the art of creating original images entirely from scratch using digital tools. No cameras, no existing photos, just a blank canvas. Yeah, you're not using anything, you're not just a blank canvas, you're not editing any photo. And then where images editing asks, how do I input this? And digital illustration asks, how do I create this? More or less like this. If you can see my screen, this part here, you can create this image with an Illustrator using digital illustration, creating it from scratch. Yes, you're not editing, you're not changing color, you're creating it, putting your own colors and organizing the workflow. And let's see digital illustration basics. Now, what are the basics of this? Now, you need to know the brush type. Yes, brush is very important when doing this particular illustration. You have hard brush, soft brush, textured brushes. They are primary drawing tools in any digital illustration software. This is a very primary drawing tool. And then building with shapes and paths. Everything in digital illustration, no matter how complex, starts with basic shapes and paths. So basically for digital illustration, shapes and paths are the major tool we use. You need to learn this particular time and feel me to go deep into these shapes and paths. Or I might just explain shape, but that path time I feel me to explain better. But that is very important when performing a digital illustration, especially with Illustrator. Then the color theory, as we taught earlier today, you need to understand the color theory, how to blend colors together. Yeah, it's very important to do saturation, contrast, and also the composition, the balance and focal point. Yes, we need to balance the images and make sure that one part is not having excess of one property than the other. Composition is how you arrange elements within a canvas. It determines where the viewer looks first, how the eye moves, and how artwork feels overall. What is your priority whenever you're creating a digital work, a digital illustration, an artwork, Uh, please, can you mute my please? Okay. So now when you're creating a digital flow, a digital illustration, what is your main focus? What do you want people to look first? What do you want to catch the attention of people? Yes, if they look into your artwork or your illustration. So that's when balance and focal point comes in. So your composition, you are going to balance it. One that is meant to be very large, very important, you put it large and a place that is conspicuous, that is not hidden. And then the other probably explanatory illustration, you can just put them in subsidiary area of your canvas. And now, what is the illustration workflow? First of all, like I said earlier, you sketch your rough idea. Yes, the sketch is for thinking, not showcasing or not showing rather. Get the idea down first. Yes, get the idea down first. Very important. Then polish later. If you notice very well, most designers, most people that do vector based or logo creators, you see them drawing it down. Very important. Yes, when you draw them down, you get your ideas down. Yes, from what you sketch down, then you can now polish and then you trace in Illustrator. You can also do all this in Photoshop, but Illustrator have the right to Illustrator makes it more easier. Yes, so but you sketch it down, look at what you need. You can show it to your client if you're working for a client and tell the client which of them does each of the illustration, what's drawn down. Yes, his or her prefer what he prefers rather. Then you clean up arts, yes, with rough sketch as a guide underneath. You import it, that's for the stage 2 now. You import it into your canvas in Illustrator and then give your rough sketch on it, then start tracing out the background. After you've done that, you add basic colors. Think of base color as coloring inside the lines, simple, flat, and consistent. Don't just start adding different colors. Make it look professional. Like the color should not be too much because if you are just starting out, you can play around that. But if you are doing it for a particular business or for something very important, you go straight to the point. Let your color be balanced. Composition also well balanced, and also for the stage 4, the shades and highlights very important. When you finish an illustration, the shades, the highlights, the places are meant to be shaded dark, and then the places are meant to be highlighted. Yes, you are going to. It's very important. And then stage 5, you refine and you export. Final pass, step back, fix anything that feels off, add finish editing, and prepare the file for its intended use. Very important. You need to cross-check for any little detail. This is very important. That's why you see most of these Google ads and Bing, like Microsoft, you see that most of their designs, they are more or less illustrations. Yes, illustration is very, very important because it gives the experiment, and I said experiment, the impression, the let's say the expression, yeah, that's the word I want to use. And then it's more or less explain better what you want to do, and in fact it communicates the whole message without much explanation. If you see this particular vector image here, now this is a vector image created either from Canva, or you can also create vector image on Canva, though Illustrator is majorly used. And then you can see the shadows and the dark parts. There's consistency in this particular vector image and this other part also. These are images that are done using Illustrator. If I'm not mistaken, I was not able to do it, but they're usually done using Illustrator. So now let's see how we can implement. I think for this class we'll just do basically photo editing, and we'll just touch Illustrator a bit because time will not permit us to go further. Okay, so now let me just head into my Photoshop. Oh, my Photoshop just got disabled recently because I was connected to the internet. Okay, so if you want to implement this, what you just learned, you open the photo in your Photoshop, adjust the brightness, color, etc. And then export. It's more than this though, but just more or less a brief. And then for Illustrator, you illustrate, you draw two shapes or make an object, add colors, and then within. Okay, so more or less, this is more or less like a more practical session for you guys to practice, but I will just show you how it's being done, and I'll be using this image in particular. Now, this is our workspace for image editing. For that of vector illustration, I'm unable to do that because of, let's say, the resources I have currently. But trust me, if I have the chance, I'll always do that, even probably in our next class. Okay, so now this is the image we're working on, and to zoom, control and plus to zoom. Yes, control and plus to zoom. So what do you do first? You examine the image to see possible edits you can make. You examine the image, and now I just will focus on the head, just the head shots, just this aspect, and then press C to activate our crop tool. Then we'll just take the aspect we want to work on, which is this. Yeah, okay. Now this is what we're working on. V till go back to our move tool. Like I said, we'll check for possible edits on it. Zoom a bit closer. You examine the image. Yes, look at it closely. Now you notice there are some spots here. You see this part, this other side here. Also this part, and though the edit here is not going to be much, just to the pimples here and the wrinkles in the skin is not actually much. So now what do? The first step, we duplicate the background. Ctrl J to do that. Duplicate the background first of all, then we'll activate our, and the tool I use most, yes, is the patch tool. Yes. Alright, so this is so what we just do here now, circle the area we want to work on, and then you move it to a clear path. Can we see how that works? Circle the area you want to work on and move it to a clear path. So that's how we do it for any aspect like that. And Just too much. Yeah. And then okay, so I think that should be all. Yeah, that should be all. While you're doing yours, for those that have Photoshop and system to practice this, if you see any other thing that you feel will be needed to do, you can also do that and just state it when you submit your assignment. Okay, so after doing that, let's just check what you've done and see them. Yeah, and then what do we do next? We do what we call the frequency separation. Yeah, that's the technique we're going to use to make this image come out clearly. Now, how do we do that? How do we come about that? First of all, let me zoom out and make this image look sharper than it is. Yes, let me make this look sharper than it is. And now do that, Control Shift A, or we go to our filter, camera, raw filter, Control Shift A. Then it opens a space where we can edit. For those of you that use what is this app called, Lightroom on phone, you'll notice that these are basically similar to what you have in your phone, Lightroom. So, but what we just doing here is something little, not much. Here's the highlights. That should be much. Let's maintain 35. For the contrast, 20 should be okay. Shadows, I'm going to increase the shadows to 25. Yeah, that is 40, okay. Yes, and then the whites. To be okay, and the black will go down a bit. Yeah, I'll just leave it that way. Now let's see what we did before. Make it look sharper than it is. Okay, click OK. Now duplicate this layer, Ctrl J again. And now we have two layers. The first layer will name it color, and the other layer will name it texture. Yes. Now for the color, we head straight to filter, blur, Gaussian blur. And for the blur, let me just put it to the face. This is way too much. Just carry it. Now the technique behind this blur is to just make it moderate enough not to see any texture, not to see any detail in the image. And this should be enough. We click it OK. For the texture, we go to image and then apply image. Now what do we do here? This is the name of the image we're working on. On the layers, it's layers here. Go to color, and then for the blend option, go to subtract. Yes, subtract. Opacity, leave it like this. Leave other settings the same way. The scale, let's move it to 2. And then the offset 128. Yes. Copy the settings so that you can have the same result. Okay. Then we do what? We group them. Yes, then we name this frequency. If you have any question now, you can just raise it up. Okay, someone just asked if vector image can be created in Photoshop. Yes, it can. Vector image can be created in Photoshop very well using you have to edit or set your Photoshop in a way that it's going to just create a vector. Vector image can be created in Photoshop. Then there's a place in Photoshop you have just turn it to path. You just turn the lines to path. Everything you're doing turn to path. Then when you are drawing your square, your circle, and your lines using your pen tool, yes, you create a vector image that way. When you zoom close, like you zoom to infinity, the line does not blur. The lines does not turn to pixels. Yes, does not turn to pixels. It just remain like that. So that's one beauty of it. Well, the other apps you can use apart from Illustrator, like I said earlier. The other apps you can use, you have Procreate, you have Inkscape. You can also use Canva for it, or illustration. Yes, you can also use Canva for it. Okay, so is there any other question? You can just drop it down. Ask question, very important. Ask question.
Alright, thank you very much, Mr. Joshua, for um this very insightful session. I'm sure that each and every participant that was part of today's meeting would have learned a thing or two about image editing and also about illustration and how they can use the tools. Thank you very much. So if you have any questions, please kindly let's drop them on the chat space. And also I've dropped the attendance link. So as many of us that are part of today's class, you can start filling in the attendance form. Thank you very much. I'll just hold on for about 5 minutes. So if there's any question or any comment or whatever, please, this is the opportunity to do so now. Thank you.